You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Folks, you're logged into the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Radio Network. Today is Thursday, February 23rd, 2017, and we've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be introducing you to K.E. Dean. She's going to be guest co-host. She's from Lanterns.buzz and also TheLabelist.com. We're going to talk about Milo Yiannopoulos, PewDiePie, Mike Flynn, Washington Post, and of course, MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski. All that in the next hour here on the HoloNet on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
All right, everybody, welcome to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Radio Network. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you our guest co-host this week, Miss K.E. Dean of TheLabelist.com and also of Lanterns.buzz. K.E., you there?
I am here.
Well, welcome to the show, K.E.
Well, thank you so much for the warm welcome, Matthew.
Not a problem at all, folks. K.E. Dean and I have been working together for the last couple of weeks here on Lanterns.buzz. Most notably, we started working together a little bit on the PewDiePie controversy just the other week. I had taken a look online, and I saw the fire starting to surround Felix Kjellberg, and I immediately reached out for K.E., as she's one of the best straight news writers that I've seen on Lanterns.buzz and that I've seen many other publications. And she was able to jump on that right quick and get us some crucial information to our readers, which I was able to successfully follow up on. So thank you for that, Katie.
No problem, Matthew.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you do on TheLabelist.com and the kind of writing we can find from you on Lanterns.buzz?
Well, on the Labelist, it's geared more towards the Christian conservative viewpoint. I found in my research and doing a lot of work with or following David Barton, he came out with a list of questions that Christians really want to know about. We find that our churches aren't really speaking on biblical truths. We have a lot of churches going for that feel-good message, that get butts in the seats kind of message, but no offense to anybody. And we're losing the authenticity of Christianity and what is the true message. So on the Labelist, I tend to take head on those questions. I do the background in the different denominations and what's out there to be found. I try to give everybody a fair point of view, but I really want to get into that authentic voice of Christianity, which is the biblical principles that we were founded upon.
Awesome. And I've actually read a couple of pieces of yours on there, K.E. One of them had to do with the millennial perspective and the millennial relationship to God. I'm actually going to have to make a little bit of a fool of myself here. I believe it was Millennials versus God. And you started it by saying that you were reintroduced to the White Horse Inn podcast and that the White Horse Inn's premise was founded on the Reformed theology and the apologetics. I found that to be a fascinating piece, and I strongly recommend checking it out. And that's at www.thelabellists, TheLabelliss.com. So I thoroughly recommend checking that out. But the reason that I wanted to bring Miss K.E. Dean on with us to the HoloNet is because we're all about bringing together different views of the millennials in our nation. I have always said this is going to be an open forum of discourse for different perspectives, and KE tends to bring more of the Christian conservative, theological politics and the cultural impact of Christianity on our nation than I think I bring to the table. I tend to be kind of the stone-cold constitutionalist. I mean, while I am a Christian, I think that KE brings it a little bit more to the fore, and she comes from, again, that background of Dr. David Barton. Previously on the show, we've had on my good friend Will Bloodworth, who is a dyed-in-the-wool bull moose progressive, and we got that perspective out of left field. And KE, I think at one point we're going to have to get you and Will on a call at the same time and just watch the fireworks.
Oh, I bet that would be an interesting debate.
It always is. It always is. But what brings us together this week is really a fascinating figure to bring conservative millennials together, because he's typically one of the most divisive figures in the field, is Milo Yiannopoulos. Now, I know you penned one of the latest write-ups on Mr. Yiannopoulos' seeming rise and cratering impact in the last couple of days. What can you tell us, KE?
Well, Milo Yiannopoulos, and I'm not saying his last name correctly, is a provocateur. He wants to have the clicks, he wants to have the likes, and it is my idea that he has become bigger than his background. John Ziegler has a article out right now. It's called "What We Learned from the Milo Yiannopoulos Implosion," and he talks about this. He has really good focal points on it. And what we learned from him is that, one, Milo has talent at getting people to listen. And I believe young millennials are searching for that voice that is authentic. And although Milo, I don't necessarily believe that he believes everything that he says, he has a voice that rings true to his audience. And I think that is what created his rise. But what his downfall is his background information, his beliefs and viewpoints on things that he has had for years that we're just now learning. And is that kind of a reflection on conservatives? Did we not do our background information? Did we not do our due diligence with the figures that we get behind?
Well, hey, I want likes and clicks. Maybe I can just run around throwing bombs and generally making a ruckus, and maybe that's the right way to go about things, don't you think?
There's definitely an appeal to that. We have so many people out there that are so disenfranchised over the past 8 years, even in our young millennial generation. Although they don't necessarily realize that it was the regulations and the thought processes of these progressive leaders that we've had, we are feeling the trickle-down effects of this. And
I hate to cut you off, KE, but I think it comes down to anger. I think it comes down to does your drive come from a place of anger or from a place of service?
Very true.
Are you looking to be a conservative firebrand because you have a message that you need to deliver to bring us back to our core principles and values? Or are you doing so out of a position of anger because these last 8 years hurt me and I'm going to hurt someone else back?
That's very true. That's an excellent point. It's one of those things. Are we provoking? Are we being bomb throwers just to be bomb throwers, just to benefit our message? Are we getting out there and being passionate because we believe in the core cause of the conservative movement?
Well, where I come from and where I've always been is I come from a place of reverence for our founding principles and reverence and adherence to the constitutional principles that made our country great, and a belief that all voices have a seat at the table and all opinions must be heard. And that's why I found myself in a very strange place with Milo Yiannopoulos, because while I support to the death his freedom of speech, there does come a point where we all have to sleep in the bed that we made. And that came to the fore with Mr. Felix Kjellberg earlier in the week, when he suddenly found himself without a show. He found himself without a connection to Disney, one of his main production partners. He found his ad revenue impacted by the WSJ report, which colored him anti-Semitic. Now, I've taken the stand that I stand with Felix in that I feel he was grossly mischaracterized, but it does still stand out that he's a bit of a bomb thrower. He's a bit of a provocateur as well, albeit for a different reason. He does it from a stance of comedy. Milo Yiannopoulos, however, is a provocateur and a bit of a bomb thrower from a stance of political speech. But the manners in which he has done so, you have to question, and you have to question it with boldness. I think Jefferson said, and Beck loves to quote constantly, question with boldness the very existence of God, because surely he would want us to question rather than to obey mindlessly. I'm probably mangling that quote, and somebody's going to call me on it. But but nonetheless, we really do have to question what we're getting with Milo Yiannopoulos, and whether the stands that he takes are stands we can stand beside. Now, I'll stand up for his freedom of speech, but when you express and voice opinions that are seemingly in favor of illegal activities such as pedophilia and immoral activities, I think that's where we deeply have to look within and come to grips with the fact that perhaps we were standing alongside the wrong people. And while I recognize his right to free speech and his right to be mischaracterized, I haven't seen the prima facie proof that he's been mischaracterized the same way I saw with Felix Kjellberg.
Oh, definitely. I agree with you there. Felix had done this for comedy. He may have taken a stunt or a joke too far, where Milo has done this repeatedly. This is his character. This is his, actor persona in the political world that he has lived by and created his foundation upon his entire career. There is a difference there where it's, a one-time deal, or is it a lifetime deal? Milo's provocative nature has shown himself for the past 5 years. The comments and behavior that got him into hot water this time was about pedophilia. And if you look back on his interviews, on his segments, on his own videos, he has stated this opinion that has come out recently numerous times. This isn't a one-time deal. People have contacted me over my articles about him for Lantern, saying, trying to defend him. He was abused. It's the opinion of the abuser that he was groomed to think. And, you can only go so far with that. He's an adult now. He's been out of the abusive situation for many, many years, but he's still advocating for that. And like you, I agree that he has every right to say whatever he wants to say. That is our First Amendment. It's free speech. He has the right to say it. But it's that kind of old adage of, you have the right to say whatever you want, but do you have the right to walk into a crowded theater and yell fire?
Absolutely. And it comes from the same place of, does the speech harm people and place people in harm's way? And I don't see that Felix Kjellberg's speech put people in harm's way. While it was easily misunderstood, it couldn't really change minds the way that Milo Yiannopoulos has demonstrated an ability to do, leading large political rallies with the following that he possesses. I mean, one cannot argue that his was a pivotal voice that led to the election of President Donald Trump. So with that voice comes a responsibility, I believe, and it's upsetting to see someone who has captured the limelight for conservatism suddenly seem to tarnish its name. But
definitely, and he himself has even come out and said he doesn't really believe he's a conservative. So to have this conservative following is kind of astronomical, because if he doesn't believe he's a conservative, then why are all these supposed principal conservatives backing him and supporting him on certain activities that he has cultivated on his social media, on, in his rallies? He likes to push buttons, and he likes to twist things to benefit himself. And is that not just what the left does for their message?
Absolutely, and one can see why CPAC would push back against that when they're trying to seek the definitive conservative voices that are in our nation. But we're going to go into a little bit more on that when we come back from this break. Thank you, KE. Hang on. We'll catch you on the other side here.
Alrighty.
Hey everybody, Matt Holloway here. I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about an amazing group of patriot entrepreneurs. Hot Pants LLC of Arizona is a welding, fabrication, and metallurgy company specializing in display weaponry and shields. A veteran-owned and operated company, they create interesting items inspired by their customers' ideas, as well as beautiful custom pieces of their own design. They're certified welders, credentialed by the Arizona Automotive Institute and Tidewater Community College, with a background experience from the U.S. military and the shipping industry. Hot Pants specializes in creating weaponry for cosplay, anime, video games, and the zombie apocalypse. No matter what your imagination can dream up, they can create a slew of interesting, creative weapons and shields ideal for any costume or outfit. If you're engrossed in the world of video games or role-playing, let them arm your character with unique, high-quality weapons. You won't be disappointed by their artistry and attention to detail. Give them a call today at 602-900-6856. That's 602-900-6856. Order online at www.hotpantsmetal.com. That's HOTTPANTS metal.com. Also, they're on Facebook at facebook.com/hotpantsllc.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
All right, everybody, we're back, and guest co-hosting with me today on the HoloNet on Lanterns Radio Network is Miss K.E. Dean, columnist with Lanterns.buzz, and also on her own page, thelabellist.com. K.E., thanks for staying with us.
No problem, Matthew.
All right. Now, prior to the break, we were talking a little bit about the rise and fall, seemingly, of Milo Yiannopoulos. And just to recap, here's what's gone down. Milo Yiannopoulos, since the internet video began circulating where he seemingly advocated pedophilia, he has lost his book with Simon & Schuster, which I believe had a $250,000 advance. He is resigned from Breitbart, where he was previously senior editor-at-large for Breitbart. And he has just generally taken a shellacking in the media for it. We were comparing, and this might be post hoc ergo propter hoc, but we were comparing his situation to that of Felix Kjellberg, a.k.a. PewDiePie, a prominent YouTuber who WSJ, Wall Street Journal, printed a piece which I believe maligned him and mischaracterized him as an anti-Semite and a Nazi sympathizer. And he subsequently lost his business connections with Disney's Maker Studios and also some of his business connections with Google's YouTube. So we're taking a look at these two seemingly disparate situations that bear a striking resemblance to each other. And I said, at the risk of giving the old fallacy of, it follows, therefore it is caused by, I don't know that these two were connected, but by God, it's coincidental, and they're very, very similar. And that led me to thinking back to the downfall of Secretary, former General Mike Flynn, and wondering, are we seeing the recipe? Are we seeing the process by which prominent conservatives and prominent members of the Trump administration may be taken down by this media? Now, I realize that sounds a little bit conspiratorial in nature, but bear with me. This is a talk show, and we debate things. What do you think, K.E.? Are we starting to see a pattern here of consistent takedowns?
I would completely agree with that. We have right now the liberal left throwing a giant-sized tantrum because their person didn't win. And now they have to go after every weak link that they can find in the so-called conservative movement to take us down, to create the image that they have already thought of us in the past 8 years, and to make it stronger, make their followers really believe that we are these just demon, evil people, that there is no way we can mend the divide between us.
I tell you what, I never had the opportunity to work with her directly when I was contributing for The Blaze, but if I were Tomi Lahren right now, I'd be checking my video archives and audio archives to see if there's anything particularly damning back there, because she was just as vocal a Trump supporter as Milo Yiannopoulos, and in many ways almost as much as of a provocateur. She was seemingly the American answer to Britain's Milo.
Yes. In a lot of ways, I respect Tomi. We both agree, she has every right to say whatever she wants to say. She is a spitfire, she's a bomb thrower, and she's a very vocal voice for young millennial conservatives. There are times, though, where it's just, I kind of have to turn her off. It's just not how I would connect with people, but everybody does it differently, and she certainly has a following that really respects her. So yes, for her, I would be very cautionary about what I have said in the past and what can be made into that little sound clip that could take me down. Because that is the world we live in. Yeah.
Anything that you say or do will be misquoted and then used against you, and also taken out of context.
We live in the world of the soundbite, and one little soundbite can take anyone down.
And we're of the generation where, man, oh man, I'm glad social media wasn't a thing when I was a kid, because I got away with some really stupid crap, and there is no video on it, thank God. But yeah, it's got to be rough to be a teenager right now, because something like that will stick with you forever. But coming back to Tomi Lahren and coming back to the millennial conservative movement, a lot of people, are under the opinion that there aren't really millennial conservatives out there. And K.E. and I are living proof. So is Tomi Lahren. Again, you might not dig Tomi. I've listened to a lot of her stuff, read a lot of her stuff, and I agree with K.E.'s assessment. She's most definitely a bomb thrower, and I can take her in small doses. Just because my response to Tomi Lahren is I have digestive issues, and I just can't be that pissed off for that long without having some serious stomach problems. So that's why I can't do what Tomi Lahren does, and God bless her. But
oh, definitely. I hope to see her star keep rising and never fall, but there's going to be a time where, she's going to have to learn to pick her battles.
I do think with a mainstream media backed into a corner now by a Republican administration and by an overwhelmingly Republican Congress, and a seeming, really a weather change in the political landscape surrounding them, I think the beast has actually become more dangerous because it's wounded. So this, I think, is going to be the most trying and most dangerous times for conservatives like you and I, and conservatives that are more prominent than we are, to take their stands and to stick to their principles. And it's going to require, as our founding fathers put it, that firm reliance and trust in divine providence in order to get through it. I don't know how you withstand the kind of assault that the conservative movement is going to be under over the next 8 years without a firm reliance on divine providence.
Oh, definitely. And we're also going to have to stand for what is right. We as the conservative movement cannot mimic the left and what they did with Obama and just blindly worshiping and following their leadership.
Exactly.
We as the conservatives have to make sure that we are being honest, that when our president, whether he has an R next to his name or a D next to his name, if he veers off from conservative constitutional principles, that we are vocal about it, as well as his followers. I'm not saying that we have to eat each other alive, but like this Milo example, when something comes up, we have to stand firm and say, wait a minute, that is not something I believe in, and I will not stand next to it.
We have to police our own house. And that, I think, is something that the liberal progressive movement has done a very, very poor job doing over the last 50 years, is policing their own house. I mean, rather than calling out their extremist elements, they embrace their extremist elements. Look at the reaction to Black Lives Matter and to the rioting and the Berkeley riots that garnered a collective yawn from the liberal left. Meanwhile, when we have a provocateur like Milo Yiannopoulos seeming to stray away from what we feel are appropriate conservative morals and principles, there is an immediate backlash, as was displayed by CPAC. So I believe in the stand that CPAC took, just as I believe in Milo's right to his freedom of speech. But one thing I did want to get out, before we kind of jump topics here, because we have a couple more things I want to cover in the bottom half, I did want to really just kind of hone in on the fact that we must hold true to the Constitution, and that while we must uphold our principles and we must uphold the president when he does well and the Congress when they do well, and we must shine the light on them when they do wrong, we also have to take great care that in this process we don't do what the left did to us for 8 years and seek to grind them into the dust, because all that will do is foment and breed greater resentment. We need to be uniters and not dividers.
Yes. That, I think, is why you see such resentment on the right. They have just grounded their heel into us and made us not turn on each other, but they made us divided amongst ourselves even, because they disenfranchised our opinion and our feelings and our empathy for one another. Now we have this hot rise of just frustration built up that we want to just get the left, and we feel so good when Trump is sitting there and just, belittling the leftist media. And I think Dana Lash has brought up this example multiple times. We're Ralphie in the Christmas Story, and we just want to pummel that bully. We just want to pummel him. But we have to make sure, as the conservatives, we take a step back, and now we have to be empathetic to the left's fears, the left's wants. We don't have to agree with them, but we have to say, hey, wait a minute, that's how we felt under Obama, and I understand it. And I will tell you right here and now, if Trump ever does anything unconstitutional, we will stand with you. We will stand with you for your voice. But I think
that's going to be what separates us at the end of the day. And I hate to cut you off, KE, but we got to go to our bottom of the hour break here in less than a minute. But okay. That is what's going to separate us at the end of the day, is whether we're able to be magnanimous in our party's victory, and whether we're going to be uniters rather than dividers, and ensure that while we do carry through our principles and our views and we stick to constitutional values, we don't make it a high crime to hold another view, that we don't make it societally unacceptable to espouse a liberal view for our brothers and sisters out there, however misguided we may feel that they are. We don't need to treat them the way we feel we were ourselves treated. And
exactly.
I think it's important for principled millennial conservatives to come together in a manner as we have here today, in order to ensure that happens, that we are better than we really feel we should be. We feel as if we deserve to be wrathful, but we need to be our best versions of ourselves. With that, we're going to go ahead and roll to our next break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of new issues. We have trending number 2 on Twitter right now, Democracy Dies in Darkness. It seems that WAPO has changed their masthead, and they're bringing down the Furies on themselves by calling out Democracy Dies in Darkness. And also, MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski had a little bit of a Freudian slip-on error, and we're going to explore that as well. And finally, we're going to talk about forget hashtag build the wall. It's time to hashtag annex Mexico, which is trending number 1 on the HoloNet. And we'll talk to you a little bit about CPAC coming up this week. So we'll be back after a quick break here. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Radio Network. Joining me is K.E. Dean, and I'm Matt Holloway. We'll see you on the other side. Hey everyone, this is Matt Holloway, and I hope you're enjoying our podcast so far. It's been exciting putting this together for you, and I'm looking forward to many more to come. I did want to let you know that in setting up the HoloNet and getting everything launched here, we've gone ahead and set up a page on Patreon.com. Now, if you haven't heard of Patreon, Patreon is a website that's similar to other crowdfunding sources that allows you to support on a month-to-month basis those sources, those artists, and those groups that you really care about and that you're passionate about. And I hope that we can ignite passion in a lot of people to become more involved in the political process, and also to become involved in the conversation and to keep that political dialogue alive. So I'd like to humbly ask you today to consider becoming a patron of the HoloNet on Patreon.com, and you can access that at Patreon.com/TheHoloNet. We have various levels of patronage. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, which unlocks exclusive content for the Patreon community, such as a feed of patron-only content. Then you have a $5 option, which gives you behind-the-scenes access to blog about the different inspirations that we have. It'll give you access to patrons-only polling. And then we have a $10 option, which gives you a signed digital poster plus everything else. $20 option, which gives you name in the credits on the site, and all other rewards. And we even have a segment sponsor package available on Patreon, which is $125 a month, which entitles you and your business to a 60-second ad as a segment sponsor during the podcast, of course, subject to content approval. So if you would like to become a patron of the HoloNet, we would be greatly thankful to you, and it's going to go toward a solid cause of generating this sort of millennial constitutional conservative content that is so lacking in our media today. So thank you for your time, for your consideration, and for being a part of the HoloNet. Here we hold the line against the night, and the millennial conservative resistance begins here.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
And we're back. I'm Matt Holloway, and you're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Radio Network. Joining me once again is Miss K.E. Dean, author on lanterns.buzz, and also on her own site, thelabelist.com. K.E., thanks for keeping with us.
No problem, Matt.
Well, it's kind of funny. The title of today's show that I put out there is K.E. Keep Me Honest. Just because I wanted to make sure we give you a proper introduction, as hopefully you'll be returning again later on, as guest co-host, and we'll be carrying on and talking and bouncing off each other, because I'm having a good time doing it.
I am as well, and that is a big burden to bear, to keep you honest, Matt.
Well, just ask any of my editors. I hope Crystal McCann's not listening right now, or Heather Bryant, or Taryn on the news, or anybody else who's responsible for making me look respectable. So,
Mom's the word for me.
Yeah, really. Don't even ask how Mrs. Holloway manages it. But what we're going to roll to next is, speaking of keeping people honest, the Washington Post yesterday built themselves up a fair amount of heat because they switched their masthead. Now, people who don't know news speak in lingo, the masthead is the motto or the credo that's usually at the top of a newspaper. Like the New York Times is all the news that's fit to print and has been since the 1800s. But Washington Post changed their masthead to "Democracy Dies in Darkness." How very dramatic of them.
It is dramatic, but isn't it kind of honest of them to realize that they are killing democracy?
I wasn't going for that angle. The actual angle I was going for was a little more Star Warsian. I was going to go for this one.
Well, we're talking about honesty, and maybe they're finally having a self-reflective look and seeing that they are actually the ones who have been dishonest with the people in killing democracy. But that would be hoping high. I highly doubt that that's happening.
I highly doubt it, too, and it's not your fault, K.E. You ran over the clip I got. Hang on a second. I'm just going to play a quick clip.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Yeah, so that was the lovely Star Wars clip of Senator Amidala saying, "This is how liberty dies," to thunderous applause, just to add to the drama that the Washington Post is trying to put out, as if they're the only voice in the waning light and encroaching darkness of a Trump administration. At this point, I need to jump on Twitter with the hashtag #SpareMe.
Yes.
Because you want to talk about the wavering light in the overwhelming storm and darkness. That would be the small-time conservative reporters, journalists, commentators, and writers that have weathered this 8-year storm that we've been living through.
Oh, definitely. And even I would go so far as the small group of principled conservatives that had their cautious moments with Trump in the primary. I am very thankful that he has turned into as pro-conservative cabinet as we could possibly hope for, and that he's keeping his campaign promises. But that wasn't necessarily a proof positive in his earlier primary run. So always we have been kind of against the mainstream and a voice alone.
I'm still saying the jury's still out for me as far as President Donald Trump is concerned. And while I find myself very encouraged by some of his picks, like, for example, General Mad Dog Mattis, I think that's an outstanding pick for Secretary of Defense that's bound to give our foes across the world second thoughts. Betsy DeVos, I'm kind of half in, half out about. I'm a huge supporter of school choice. I've got 3 little boys myself, and I want to be able to choose where my tax dollars go. Luckily, I live in Arizona, and Arizona has a robust school choice system, and they're actually working on improving the voucher system here in Arizona. But a lot of people are just of the belief that in order to be Secretary of Education, all you need to know what to do is how to operate a padlock.
That is true. But at the same time, I'm with you. I'm half in, I'm half out. But you need to give her a chance. And we have a lot of overrun teachers' unions and political affiliates that are going to want to destroy her before she even gets a chance to do anything.
Oh, that woman is in peril right now, and make no mistake, there's a good reason she's traveling around with U.S. Marshals watching out for her. I don't know if you were made aware of that, K.E., but I grew up in New Jersey, so believe me, I know all about the power of unions and the amazing power that they can wield both in the political field and also in day-to-day life. I mean, the NJEA, very, very strong teachers union. I grew up knowing that even in my high school days.
Yeah, I grew up with in the New York State system, and my mother was even on the school board. Now, we were in a small town, so there was a lot more clout with the unions than you would think because our little school was basically the only income earner, the tax base for the town.
Wow, that's insane. And, so you're from New York, I'm from New Jersey, Exit 12, represent.
Oh, yeah, that's why we moved out west.
Comparatively so. And you're in Florida now, no? Or
I was in Florida. I just recently moved to Texas.
there you go. You got Texas,
I am
Texas and Arizona.
The freedom.
And hey, did you notice how since all the heavy hitters here at Lanterns are all down at CPAC, they kind of left it to the young bucks and the young bells to kind of hold down the fort?
I have noticed that a little bit. I'm definitely proud of our Lanterns' influence over at CPAC and getting the voice out for us, but that definitely is a heavy burden to bear for the rest of us. Get us to prove our muster.
Absolutely. And to everybody out there, if you haven't had a chance to tune in yet, make sure you tune in on lanterns.buzz. You can listen on Spreaker, SoundCloud, or iTunes. Chris Pillier, Jonathan Dunn have been all broadcasting live from CPAC all day. I've been listening to them since literally 5 o'clock this morning because that's when I get up for work. So make sure to tune in. I know Ted Cruz spoke today. I haven't yet gotten the press release on that or the transcript, and I haven't had a chance to listen, but I plan to a little bit later on tonight, and you better believe that there's going to be a write-up on that following. I'm sure KE, if she hasn't already started working on one, is probably going to be working on one shortly.
Oh, definitely. And I also was very impressed with Dana Lash. She is an amazing spokesperson for the NRA, and I can't welcome her enough.
Fantastic choice.
Congratulate her enough.
Fantastic choice. On the NRA, how do you feel about that move by the appellate court, I believe it was in Maryland, now saying that assault rifles are not covered under the Second Amendment?
Oh, my goodness. Are they crazy or what? I mean, assault rifles. Basically, a hunting rifle painted black is an assault rifle. Our founders...
I want to put this out there real fast. I mean, they're not just talking about your AR-15s here, folks. Somebody I know, not me, of course, because, I don't own any guns. I live in Arizona, but I don't own any firearms whatsoever, so don't anybody come looking. But even something like a Marlin Model 60, where it's got a 18-shot tubular magazine that's embedded. You can't change out the magazine. You got to hand load the sucker, put all 18 rounds in there. That would become illegal under this kind of a judgment because it is a semi-automatic rifle. Aside from some cosmetic differences, this is no different from the AR-15 rifle.
The problem with the left is they want to make everything scary. They want to make everything into government control. They want the government to protect you, so you don't need guns. You don't need those things to protect you. We'll protect you. But what they don't understand...
we're clinging to our gods and our guns. Don't you know that?
Exactly. What they don't understand is a common 911 response time is up to 20 minutes, sometimes 30, depending in the area that you're in.
Parts of Arizona, it's good luck. That's the response time.
I mean,
then again, also there are parts of Arizona where they don't call the police; they call the coroner after the smoke clears.
Well, I mean, from my upstate New York experience, a lot of the things were volunteer, and the police system was 3 counties sharing a police office. So if you call 911, good luck. So yeah, I definitely want my gun. Like you, I do not own a gun at this time, but I'm definitely looking into it now that I'm in Texas.
Well, you have to have that just to be a citizen of Texas. I don't know if you were aware that's actually in the small print on the driver's license.
I can't get my license until I get the gun, which, as a single woman, I don't mind having. I want to know that I can protect myself in any situation that I find myself in.
I tell you what, my wife is a shorter lady. She's about 5'2", and when she goes out for a walk, especially when she's got her 3 little boys with her, she's got the mama bear instinct happening. We again don't have any guns yet, so nobody come to my house looking for them. But it would bring me a great deal of comfort if she could reach into her purse and find something there to protect herself. And that's just come from me because even for married women, children. I can't be there all the time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But I digress. We just ran over our 11-minute mark. You see, this is our first show working together, and we get to talking. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski and the duty of the media. So you're going to hear about that on the other side of the break here on the HoloNet on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the nub breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
And we're back on the HoloNet podcast on Lanterns Radio Network. I'm Matt Holloway, and joining me as guest co-host this week, we have K.E. Dean of Lanterns.buzz and TheLabelist.com. K.E., I really have to apologize there. I'm pretty sure I belched during the break, and you probably heard that. I know I muted the audio input for the show, but I realized I didn't mute the mic for her call, so I'm like, that's a great way to start off.
That's all right. I excused you a while ago.
All right. Well, I had promised right before we left that we were going to talk about this open mouth insert foot moment from MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski discussing what the job of the media is and her concerns about President Trump interfering therein. So we're going to go to that audio right now. It's going to be about 30 seconds long.
He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
So as Mika Brzezinski says, she's concerned the president may be able to control what people think, and that's our job. Well.
The unmitigated gall of Mika and the leftist media in general to believe that they need to be our brains. What we need is a media that is actually a watchdog for the American people, not some crying, whiny snowflakes that they lost. I want to know the truth about what's going out there. A major example of this is Sweden. I mean, Trump went out and tweeted about the just craziness of Sweden, and the leftist media went crazy. Oh, it's fine. It's beautiful. Blah, 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 blah.
And here's the insane part. Anybody, sorry to cut you off, K.E., but anybody on the right who listens to, let's say, Glenn Beck and the Blaze, or who listens to Mark Levin, or listens to Sean Hannity, has known about the troubles plaguing Europe, specifically Sweden and other nations like Germany that have been taking in large numbers of Middle Eastern refugees for the past 6 months. There have been numerous stories in various reputable sources how Sweden is becoming the rape capital of Europe right now due to literally roving gangs on the streets composed of Middle Eastern male refugees, typically aged 17 through 35, who are going out looking for a good time, and they don't care who they step on or who they take.
Exactly, and it's really a sad commentary when Sweden and other nations have a curfew not for refugees but for their citizens. You need to be in your house and off the streets at a certain time so that you don't get raped, so that you don't get killed.
when you have a chief of police recommending that women travel in groups, and as you said, that they observe a curfew in their own hometowns. I mean, the trouble in Europe right now is just mind-boggling, and the fact that the American media as a whole has just tuned a deaf ear and a blind eye to the plight back there. And, I actually saw over this week, I know I'm jumping from topic to topic, but they all are connected, that French presidential candidate Marine Le Pen on a visit to Lebanon was set to meet with the Grand Mufti of Lebanon, and when informed that she would be required to wear a headscarf, turned around, got back in the car, and drove away. Why? Because this problem is happening in France, specifically in the area surrounding Calais.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to be said for this, because one, kudos to Marine Le Pen for not putting on the headscarf. I'm sorry, you're meeting me in my own country. You are going to follow by my rules, not yours. But that's a whole commentary.
For the record, she was meeting them in Lebanon.
Oh, she was? I'm so sorry. I thought she was meeting in France.
No worries. No, this was in Lebanon, but still, nonetheless, we're talking about the potential leader of one of the major powers in the world. I mean, people forget France is still a nuclear power. I mean, they're nothing to be trifled with.
Definitely. And world leaders need to understand that women are a powerful voice in politics as well. If she is the president of France, then she has a voice at the table. But this goes on to the commentary about the refugee and open borders all around. We are no longer asking people, immigrants, whether illegal or illegal, to assimilate to our own cultures. We're allowing them to overtake neighborhoods and keep to their own country standards. I mean, excuse me, if you wanted to get away from Sharia law, then why are you coming to my country and trying to implement it?
Yeah, if you ever pay a visit to Dearborn, Michigan, you can see how that's working out in real time, given the fact that Dearborn, which is home to one of the first almost entirely Muslim city councils, are seeking to invoke Sharia-like ordinances within that city and leaving many of the Christian and Jewish citizenry quite concerned.
Very concerned. And we're seeing that all over the country. I mean, there was a court case here in Texas in Irving for the same thing.
Yes, I believe the Blaze had the mayor of Irving on. I apologize, I don't recall her name, but very, very fierce woman, fierce defender of the Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the Texas Constitution. So I'm going to have to follow that up and see if potentially we can reach out to the mayor of Irving, see if we can have her on at some point. I know she's been doing a lot of radio of late, and she's become a bit of a local hero there in Texas. But we are coming up on the tail end of the show here, so I did want to take the opportunity to once again thank you, K.E., for coming on the show and for all the assistance that you've given me with the various stories that you've written for lanterns.buzz. And once again, that website to see K.E. Dean's work on the religious side of things is thelabelless.com. Again, that's thelabelless.com. K.E., do you want to give out any social media or Twitter information for the audience?
Well, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's at legit, LEGITKED. And also just go to my blog, The Labelist, as you have said. And thank you, Matt, so much for having me on the show. And please forgive my blunders, but it has been quite an enjoyable experience.
Oh, not at all, not at all. I mean, that's the part that makes it fun, is sometimes tripping over each other and tripping over words. But again, everybody, if you like the HoloNet show, you can follow us on Twitter at Matt D. Holloway or at the HoloNet. You can also check us out on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/theholonet, and the homepage is theholonet.blogspot.com. Also, of course, find us on lanterns.buzz. You can listen to us on lanterns.buzz, Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, among other audio resources that are out there. And once again, please do give a listen to the Lanterns.buzz team currently holding it down out in Maryland at CPAC. We've got Chris Pillier and Jonathan Dunn. Jonathan Dunn, also known as Freedom's Disciple on the Blaze. We have Defenders of American Exceptionalism. And I'm sure there are one or two other people there whose names presently escape me, but they're who I was listening to this morning. So if I left anybody out, don't pillory me in front of the whole team. But that's that for this show. Put this one in the books. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Radio Network. My name is Matthew Holloway, and joining me this week has been K.E. Dean. K.E., thanks again.
No problem, Matt.
All right, everybody. Once again, thank you for listening to the HoloNet podcast. Good night, and God bless.